Yo, what's up, guys? Doing King Rastakhan now. This is actually, I've been looking forward to this one because I think this one might be my overall, just my favorite fight in the raid. And I know I've said that about probably, Opulence or something. I mean, Opulence is pretty fun too, but I just really enjoy Rastakhan. It has very sort of consistent timings just when we were progressing on it, and now they're starting to change because our DPS is insane. Like when you start getting a lot of gear and your DPS is a lot higher, you actually start having to hold DPS, which really sucks. But these are some of our first progress kills. This is just the first one, of course, is heroic again, and then we'll do mythic. But so this is again just our heroic alt run. But at the beginning here, of course, there are 3 ads on heroic, and I think before I had said maybe there were 2, but there are 3 on heroic, the same as mythic. So that does mean we will be able to use our trick shots. We will be multi-shotting, when we can in order to get that trick shots on these first 3 ads. The guy you really want to be on is Roka, Siegebreaker Roka. He's the guy that does the sort of raid damage thing where you have to, the person that gets the debuff has to run into the group and then share the damage with everyone. Or you can immunity, whichever way you want to do it. It's like the coin shower on Opulence. Like you either have to share the damage or immunity. And of course, it's at the beginning of the fight, so you don't want that person to die. So make sure you are figuring out what you want to do with that because you don't want somebody to die right at the beginning of the fight. So I usually open with double tap here. It is, of course, yes, it is better to multi-shot first to get trick shots and then double tap a trick-shotted aim shot because let's see, there are 3 targets, so a double tapped aim shot here will hit 4 times, but a trick shotted double tapped aim shot, that's quite a sentence, will hit 6 times. So you're getting 2 extra sort of cleave hits, which is, at least, that's at least 40,000, maybe 50,000 damage. Even more if they're critting. So I mean, that is a little extra damage. So just decide to do however you want that way. I don't want to just tell you how to do your rotation. I really feel like you should be figuring it out for yourself. I mean, just play it how you like to. You should be reading guides and stuff, and they're all readily available. But just I don't know, kind of play how you like it. And I'm just gonna show you like how I like to do it. So of course here we are going to be trick shotting, but just one thing specifically with trick shots is, so I did open with the aim shot, and then I immediately trick shots, multi-shot, and then into rapid fire. And now before we cast true shot, I'm going to multi-shot again, and then true shot, and then go into our true shot rotation, just because that extra global of multi-shot, it would be wasted inside true shot, just because we don't have any unerring vision stacks yet. Like we only have 1 stack, and it's just not as worth to multi-shot that first global of true shot. Instead, you should do it right before you cast true shot. So trick shots and then true shot and then into aim shot, multi-shot, aim shot, multi-shot, and then I think I rapid fire there. Yeah, that's fine. It's just whatever here. Again, this is heroic. So one of the first things there, one of the first mechanics is this sort of sunbeam of like this orbital laser, like nuke it from orbit sort of feeling from King Rastakhan here. And what it does, it just picks a random player. I think it's always a ranged, or a ranged healer. So maybe not monk healers. I'm not 100% sure about that. But it'll hit somebody in the ranged, and it spawns. It doesn't spawn on your character. Like it doesn't start hitting you immediately. It will spawn like just to the side of you, and then you are alerted that it's on you. I mean, if you have the weak or the boss mod, bigwigs, DBM, they should alert you that, okay, it's on you. So that means you need to just start moving. You don't really have to run too fast or anything. It's not too big of a deal. And then here is Siegebreaker Roka is actually jumping on someone. Luckily, they are already in melee, so that damage will be spread. So you'll see that damage in a second. So yeah, that was barely any damage right there on heroic. But that's sort of the feeling of it. And let's see, I think Headhunter is about to die here. So yeah, we are down to 3 targets, including Rastakhan. And now we are finally down to 2 targets. So now we will no longer be able to really trick shots. There is a totem, like the Serpent Totem from like Warcraft 3, the Witch Doctor, that spawns and it just does damage. You can trick shots off of that. I mean, if you're lucky, like if he places it in the group, you know, in the sort of clump, you can get a trick shots off of that. So I have one more here, but that is the last one I'll get, I think, for the whole fight. Because for me anyway, I will be going downstairs, and I will, explain what that is. Of course, if you are upstairs, I think you are able to do another round of ad cleaving, so that's obviously pretty fun. If you are upstairs, that means like maybe your warlocks and stuff, they will be doing the some more ad sort of damage. But so here, the another thing, he summons a zombie dust totem. So what this does is it immediately mind controls people. And I think on Mythic it's maybe 3 people. I forget exactly. And on Heroic, obviously, it depends on your group size. I think it was just 1 person in this group. But what it does is, as long as the totem is up, that person is mind controlled, and they will, they'll randomly attack people, and just sometimes as a caster, they'll just have you run up and punch people. It's not too much of a problem. The big problem is, first of all, if they are mind controlled, that means that maybe some of your overzealous DPS are cleaving them or dotting them just to like do more damage, or they're not even realizing that they're hitting one of the raid members, and you can actually kill them quickly if you're not careful. Like, you can accidentally DPS down your own players, so you have to be careful about if somebody is mind controlled and they're like in melee, like don't be cleaving, whirlwinding and cleaving and doing sweeping strikes and shit like that. Like, try to make sure that you're only doing single target and you're not killing your friends while they are mind controlled. Of course, you can use Tremor Totem or other sort of breaks. I mean, is there something else that breaks a mind control? But you can Tremor Totem to instantly break the mind control, and then the totem will just exist. And then you just have to kill the totem, because I think after another 12 or 15 seconds, it will mind control a new set of people. So you try to kill the totem in that 10, 12 seconds. So you do want to be switching to those the zombie dust totem, the mind control totem. But one of the reasons I love this fight is because I've really gotten used to all the timings and the spacing. The spacing is always the same, basically. So I'm able to stand over here on this side of the boss. So that's why I kind of like it, just because I'm able to do the same thing every time, and it's a very consistent fight that you can really get used to sort of doing, the same thing every time. And, he's dying pretty fast here. We're not even going to get another true shot, I think. Well, we might. But the big thing is at 60%, the next phase begins. So one thing you'll notice here, I haven't even talked about it, there's actually Bwan Samdi is actually up, and he's over there being tanked by the other tank. So let's see when he spawned. He spawned here. So basically, after you kill the ads, King Rastakhan is like, okay, like, hey, Bwan Samdi, come out and help me, because they just killed my lieutenants and I need help. And again, this is another one of those fights where you are the Alliance and you're fighting the Zandalari defense. They're trying to defend their empire. This is actually the king, and he's defending like his throne, from the Alliance invaders. So he wants to enlist the help of Bwan Samdi again, like he did in the previous tier. So this is where Bwan Samdi, you can see him over here. He like comes in and he spawns. So what he does is basically this aura around him. He has this big like ring. All it does is puts a stacking debuff on you that just does damage over time. So as you are standing in that aura, you're just slowly getting a stacking debuff. So you have 1 tank on Rastakhan and then 1 tank on Bwan Samdi. And I don't personally know exactly how that tank deals with their stacks and stuff. I mean, I don't know if they're able to get them off or something like that. I guess they have to taunt swap maybe at some point. Yeah, so I guess they do taunt swap. So you do swap your tanks out once in a while when they are getting a lot of stacks. So that's the tanking bit. I don't know any more about it really. But with so let's just go back to where we were. So at 60% is when phase two starts. Now there's another sort of mechanic that you might have noticed here. These little doors. These are, we call them death's doors. I think that's what they're called in the dungeon journal. It's basically it's sort of like a door into the death realm or something that Buon Samdi is summoning. And what it does is it's sort of on the normal plane, so this is what we would call upstairs. They just exist, and I think they shoot orbs or something during the phase two, and then phase three they are shooting orbs. I definitely know they shoot orbs on phase three. I guess they do on phase two as well, but maybe it's only downstairs on phase two. So in downstairs phase two, the death gates also are on the same place, but you are sort of separated from the raid. So what we do here, um, King Rastakhan is at 56%. I mean, we are pushing him quickly, but at 60% is when he starts doing his role play to go into the next phase. So of course you can keep doing damage here, but you want to make sure you're in the right position. So what I mean by being in the right position is we have two groups in the raid. So the raid, and of course with Mythic you do 10 and 10, and in this heroic I guess we have 15 people. So I mean it's like 6 or 7. Going down, and then 8 staying up or whatever. But basically, you want the people who are going downstairs, so into the death realm, you want them to be over nearest to Buon Samdi, and then anyone else who's not, that you do not want to be going downstairs, just don't have them close to Buon Samdi. So the way it chooses who goes downstairs is whoever is closest to Buon Samdi. Now that means you don't have to be standing in his ring. Like you don't have to be standing right on Buon Samdi's ass. Like you can be away from him. You can be outside of the ring, but just make sure that whoever is not supposed to be going downstairs, make sure that they're away, they're even farther ahead. So basically, this is a smaller group, of course, only 15 people, so it's easier to manage. So everyone is over there. They're all fine. We're all in the right position. So basically what happens here is we get sucked into the death realm, and wow, it's all like grayscale now, and it's all like, oh Jesus, it's all death and decay. So basically the downstairs people, you want them to be pretty much your best like single target, blast DPS. So obviously Marksmanship Hunter is good for that, just because we can use a true shot during this phase. And sometimes I think on Mythic you can get a second true shot in if you're doing well there. But basically the downstairs people, they just nuke down Buon Samdi himself. And I think this phase goes until he's at 60%, or maybe it's 50%. But anyway, you're just going to be doing a whole lot of damage here. And as you can see, there are a shitload of orbs. And on Heroic, I mean, they definitely do damage. On Mythic, they do a lot more damage, but there's a secret like strat on Mythic that you definitely want to be doing that I will obviously go into here in just a few seconds, in a few minutes, with the Mythic kill. But so again, we are in the death realm, and it's sort of the entire room now sort of counts as that death aura from Buon Samdi. So you are getting a stacking dot, and you can see my weak aura here. It's stacking up. So I'm at 2 now. And then 3, I'm going to start going up to 3 and 4 and 5. So the way that you get rid of that dot is actually you just walk into one of the death gates, like just sort of walk in and out of it, just sort of, like touch it kind of. It doesn't do any damage to you, I don't think. It does do damage to the upstairs people. So if you wanted to kill everyone upstairs like really fast, all you would have to do is have everyone downstairs reset their stacks by running into the death store just all at once. So if everyone downstairs all resets their stack at once, that'll do raid damage to everyone upstairs, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like really quickly, like everyone at once, and it'll basically kill them all. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're sort of staggering and spreading out your reset times. So what we did on Mythic, for example, on Heroic, it's not too important for this group, but on Mythic, we were like, okay, you and you are going to reset at 7. And then you and you reset at 9 stacks, and then, you two at 11, and then you two at 13 stacks. So it's like, we're not all going to be resetting all at the same time. We kind of wait for a certain time to reset. And there is some leeway with that. I mean, obviously there's some times that I will get into here in a second where You might have to reset your stack at a different time, but it's, you know, it's there's a little bit of leeway, but you just want to make sure you're not nuking the upstairs people by being in the death realm and killing them all accidentally. Another big thing, and this is recurring in the fight from now on, is inevitable end. So inevitable end is a big suction thing where first of all it's Blom Samdi and then it'll be King Rastakhan in the final phase where he starts sucking everyone in, like in the entire room. He'll start sucking them all only downstairs here, and then in the last phase it's everyone. But it's only downstairs for this first part, and he sucks everybody in, and then if you are successfully sucked all the way in towards Bwansamdi, you instantly die. It's just one of those mechanics where if you bubble, you're dead. It's just one of those things where if you touch him, you just instantly die. So it's not a damage thing. It's not like damage reduction saves you or anything like that. It just kills you instantly. And then there's one more thing I just wanted to go through. You can see when you're targeted. Let me see if I get targeted here. I know I did before. But one thing he does, Bwansamdi, during this phase, he casts Caress of Death. So you can see in the unit frame there, he's casting Caress of Death on people. So first of all, you know when he's casting it on you, so you know that it's about to hit you. And what it does, the Caress of Death, it's just I think it's a 4-second, let me try and find that doc, because it was on me a second. There it is. So yeah, I think I got maybe the first target. So he's about to target me, or no, he already targeted me. Let me see. So I am the first target. Yeah, he actually targets me first. So this is a good example. So he targets me first with the Caress of Death. So my weak aura here, this is a really useful weak aura because it shows that I am targeted by the Caress of Death. So 3, 2, 1. And then when I get it, he casts it on me, and it's a lot like the Conclave of the Chosen debuff, where it's a hand that like comes out and hits you. So then for, I guess on Heroic, I don't know if it's longer on Mythic, we'll see if it is or not, I'm sure. But it's a 4-second where you don't receive any heals. You cannot be healed during that time. So the Wombo combo here is something you need to be aware of. If you are at like 10, 12, 13 stacks of the dot, and then you're getting targeted by the no heal, and maybe you're already at like 60% because you've just been getting hit by the dot a lot, you definitely want to immediately reset your stacks, no matter what, really no matter what's going on. I mean, don't kill everyone upstairs, but I mean, that's kind of a whichever way works out for the best of the raid, but just make sure that if you are kind of low on health and you have a high stack of the dot and you have the no heal on you, you need to reset your stack so you're not taking damage, so that you can survive until the no heal debuff goes off, and then you can get healed, because you can't healing potion, you can't health stone, you can't exhilaration, you can't use any heals. I mean, you could use like a damage reduction, of course, and you should be using damage reduction smart in this phase, like intelligently. But that's the only other thing in that phase, really. You just got to watch for that no healing debuff. So let's see, he's at 57, 54, so I guess it's at 50%. So we'll just watch here. At 50%, it looks like he will reset. Yeah, so at 50% Bwansamdi, like downstairs, he actually will end that phase, and then we rejoin the upstairs people. Now, you'll see these guys, they were already upstairs, and they've already been up here fighting, and Rastakhan's already down at 43%. So they have their own jobs to do. And, I mean, the upstairs is not as crazy during that phase as downstairs, definitely. So the upstairs is the easier sort of phase during phase 2, and especially in Mythic as well. But yeah, basically you're just doing damage here, and there's another little thing. So this fire, I'm not sure what it's called, Plague of Fire. So this is, again, it's a lot like the Hex thing, where if you are next to someone when this debuff on you expires and they're inside your ring, like you can see the ring around me, if somebody is in that ring, then they get the debuff. And then if somebody's in their ring, they get the debuff. So that's a really like snowballing effect. Like if you have all the melee, if they are still stacked on the boss when he casts Plague of Fire, I mean, it can go to hell like really quick. The attempt. So you just want to make sure you're spread out for that. So melee, I mean, I know it sucks for melee, but you really want to, the best way to do it is right when the Plague of Fire is coming out, you want to just preemptively spread out. So that basically means most of the melee are running out. Maybe you can assign, you know, your favorite melee, whoever your favored people are, to stay in on the boss, but you definitely don't want to be spreading it to the tank, and you know, you don't want to be spreading it among the ranged. Like you can see there, that was just a little example. And again, this is heroic, so it's not too big of a deal. Like Stormcaster and Core were right next to each other, so Core had it first, and then it went to Storm, and then it went back to Core there. So it'll just keep going, and every time it explodes, it does damage to both you and the person. So it's just kind of a back and forth of just keep doing damage. But you know, it's not too big of a deal on heroic. And then you know, he blinks away to finally end the vicious cycle. And then there's one other thing. It's a tank. It's a tank debuff, so it's not something you need to worry about as DPS specifically, but in terms of timing your cooldowns and stuff, you see the scorching detonation. So you can see Krush here, he leaps way out because I guess it does area damage the closer you are, so maybe I'm not even in the best spot here. But what it does is it does raid-wide damage. So here, when you saw that explosion, it did damage to everyone. And on Mythic, that can be a good bit of damage. So you want to, if you want to use like a turtle on that, and it'll just deflect the damage. Like if you know, if you're about to kill the boss, you want to stay alive. That's just one other little thing to be aware of, just because all of the other damage in this phase is totally avoidable. If you get the fire dot on you, then you will take a little damage from it. But I mean, it's really not too much damage as long as you are not spreading. Yeah, that was 19,000 damage there. So I mean, that's really not that bad. Yeah, so you can see this is actually kind of funny. I think the melee is getting really fucked up by fire right now. So it's on them, and then it spread again, 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 and it spread again there, and it spread again. It's still okay. So this is, you know, a little bit of a fail right now, but that's just kind of the funny way to see, like, you know, if you don't run that fire out, and especially on Mythic, and you know, again, this is heroic, so it's, you know, a little bit easier, but on Mythic, it will be killing people like quickly if you're not spreading out. And then finally, I finally get the debuff, the portal debuff. So I actually have a death portal on me right now. And basically, the best place to drop it in this phase is on the edges of the wall, probably. You know, just keep it out just so people have time to see where it's coming from, because the doors will be spawning orbs that just kind of come out. That's where these orbs I've been dodging come from. They come from the doors, and they will come out a random direction. So if you put them on the wall, that cuts off like 180 degrees, basically, at least, of their targeting area, because they might just be shooting them into the wall and they just, you know, don't do anything. But if you are dropping them like that, sort of in the middle of the room, like that wasn't the best drop, but I mean, the boss is dead. If you're dropping them in the middle of the room, then they're going to be able to be shooting spheres all over the place, all over the room, and hitting everyone. So it's better to drop them on the edges if you can. And again, this is the inevitable end thing. So he sucks you in, and you can get close. I mean, I'm pretty close. It's basically within unit frame. Like if you're standing on the on him, then you kind of get hit by it, and that's where you instantly die. So that's heroic, and I mean, even heroic can be a little bit hectic, and the loot is actually stored on, yeah, so you have to skip a cinematic. The loot is actually in a chest over here, so that's where the loot is. So let's go straight to Mythic here. So it's the same setup at the beginning, and it's the same debuffs and stuff. There's not too much like new in this phase on Mythic, so I'm just going to do my big blast. And actually, a little side note, this was rank 1 Mythic at the time of filming this. So I did something right. It must have been something right. And then you can see 2 Asian there. He got it. So here, Bay has the Meteor Leap. So that's the debuff where you have to stack up. So he disengages into the melee camp, and then boom. And that, even with all of those people, that was like, what, 18 people, 13 people just got hit by that, and it still, you know, took them down to like 70% health. So you got to make sure you are sharing that. And another thing I didn't even mention, but you can notice, is the toads that leap out. You can actually have, if you are good enough. I almost died there. That was pretty bad. 2 Asian died. the toads, they leap out and they leave poison in their wake, and you just obviously don't want to stand on that. One thing you can do is right when the toads are spawning, like they all spawn around King Rastakhan, and then they're like, all right, men, ready? Hop, and then they hop forward. So there's a little delay, like when they spawn and then hop, and you can have a rogue use Cloak of Shadows and just preemptively just run through all of the toads and ignore the spell damage, and it sort of kills all the toads because they kind of blow up on the rogue preemptively, and then they don't hop out. They only leave the poison right around the boss. So that's obviously a really good way to deal with that and have a much more efficient sort of way to deal with that. So here, this is one of the problems with this mechanic, and you want to be spread out more than I was, because this is the seal of purification. Okay, so that's what it's called. The laser from orbit is on 2Asian here. Now, it's on him, but it's like doing damage to me because I am next to him. So that's my mistake. I mean, I should have been more spread out. Normally, I am over where Creepy is right now. Like, I'm way more on the side, and I'm not stacked like right here. That was definitely a little lapse in sort of my play, and I am down to 15%. So I was at 100%, and I had a shield here. No, I was at 68, 77, 80. So I was at 80% health, and I quickly dropped to 15% health. And that actually killed 2 Asians. So that's something you really got to be aware of. That seal of purification can kill you very fast on Mythic. But again, this is much the same as Heroic there. You just want to be, trick shotting and doing some damage. And then I like to go over by myself. I like this little area because I get to have my own, like, alone time, my own personal space, like in this back cubby. And then this is where he stuns us and he summons Blom Samdi to help. So this, on Mythic, there's a big difference in this phase that you really need to be aware of. And it's one of those advanced strats that wasn't really, maybe intended by Blizzard to be done. Again, here's the totem. You want to be killing that quickly. But this, so basically the downstairs area, the Death Realm, that, we go into at 60%, those orbs, as they're flying around, if those orbs hit another Death's Door, so if they come in contact with another Death's Door, they will disappear. And I think they go upstairs at that point or something. Again, I've never done upstairs, so I actually don't even know. But so basically what you want to do with the Death's Gate in this phase, because during this phase in Mythic, you'll be getting Death's Gate, and it's the same on Heroic. But I think you usually get 4 or 5 just about before he gets to 60%. And that's why I was talking about earlier, sometimes you have to hold your DPS just so that you get an extra Death's Door. Because what we're going to do is, you can see over here, we have these 4 markers. So moon, skull, square, and X. And what that is actually a little bunker. It's almost like a little bunker that we've designed, where you want to have this tight little area of portals. So you actually want to have the people who get Death's Gate, Death's Portal, whatever it's called, the debuff that you saw in that the Heroic kill. When you get that debuff, you want to run over there quickly, and you want to drop the Death's Door. So I think, who is that? It's a priest. I think that's 8th. So that's Aetherius, whatever. I think he gets the Death's Door. He runs over, you can see him, and he stands there, and he drops it right on Skull. So that is the first one. And then the next person is going to drop it right next to that one, and then next to that one, next to that one. Basically what that does, it builds a little, what is that, a trapezoid or a rhombus, whatever, where, or I mean, you could just call it a square, I don't fucking care. But you want to have sort of like a bunker. It's sort of like a little area where if you stand inside the back of it, and you'll see this in the second phase, and there is one of the Ghost Wolves. He just dropped another one, so that's good. They're right on, right on target, and you can get them really close together. It's fine to really, bunch them pretty close, just so that there's no holes in between them where those orbs in that second phase, they can kind of go, sneak through. You want to make sure they're actually, close enough so that they're soaking all those orbs. And I got MC'd just for a second there, but it quickly fell off. It was quickly dispelled, tremor totemed. And now you can see again, 8th got another one. That's great because he knows exactly what to do with it. He dropped it on X there, I guess. And so we just need one more Death's Door. And that's why you will start holding your DPS on this fight, which really sucks. I probably will never do this much damage ever again on this fight because we have to hold DPS. So that's kind of funny. But again, just like in that heroic kill, the downstairs people, which I'm part of. So yeah, you can see. I guess it's over here. That's where the orbs start spawning. Is over there. So just like in the heroic kill, the downstairs group get closest to Bwan Samdi, and then everyone else gets away from Bwan Samdi, just to make sure that we are the closest. So this looks a lot different than heroic, doesn't it? This is like a whole lot different. When we come down, there's no Death's Doors anywhere except for this bunker. So what we're going to do, we're all going to run behind, and then we're going to get like in the little cubby. So you can see like we're up inside of the cubby, and look what happens. Like that orb and that orb, they're both going to hit us, right? Oh, look, they get sucked. They get sucked in by the Death's Door. So this is obviously a really good strat. And basically what you really need to be doing is you build a bunker, and then you can just stand here and DPS Bwan Samdi. Just stand still, do damage. So that's really important. That's a huge part of the fight, and that's something you'll have to be working on in progression, making sure you're building a good bunker. And one little thing here, he does do the inevitable end suck, so he will be sucking you in just like he does normally. But you don't want to get sucked in because, again, he will kill you if you do get hit. But, of course, on Mythic, I think it's much faster. It's actually faster than your running speed. So if you're running straight away from Bwan Samdi, he'll still slowly suck you in. So we actually drop a Wind Rush totem here, which is an important shaman talent. So keep that in mind. Sending a shaman downstairs with Wind Rush is really good. That's a really big part of it. So that way you can run away. And I'm trying my hardest here to still like hit the boss. So I'm like trying to strafe left and like still do damage to the boss. So as marksmanship, I mean, we have a lot of stuff that we can cast while moving. So make sure, if you can, just make sure you're still doing damage during that suck. And then after the suck ends, you go back into the bunker and just make sure you're resetting your debuff. So here you can see I'm targeted by the healing debuff, and I have 7 stacks. So it's like, I mean, and I'm at 40% health. I'm not supposed to reset until I'm at 12, I think, but I'm going to go ahead and just walk into the Death's Door and reset my stacks, just because I was at 42% and I couldn't get healed, and it's just, you know, better to be safe there. And you can see the upstairs, so you should have raid frames as a DPS, even though you're not healing or anything. You should still have raid frames. You can see everyone was pretty healthy when I dropped mine. So everyone was, yeah, they were pretty healthy. I mean, Triple got hit by something in a second here. But, you know, just make sure you're watching the raid frames of the upstairs group and don't just instantly kill somebody that's really low. So you just, you know, just be aware of that. That's something I actually didn't learn for like a couple of, you know, maybe even a couple of kills on this, or, you know, not even our first kill, that I really understand that like every time you reset your debuff, it's doing damage to people upstairs. So inevitable end again, but he's at 50%. So again, it's the same as heroic. At 50%, he sort of resets and we go to our last phase. That does mean you have to escape the little bunker that we built. So make sure you're out. But as you can see, there's some ads up, and we get to do some fucking AoE. So if you are chasing the rank 1 parse on this fight, you'd want to save your true shot for this big AoE right here. And again, this probably will never happen again, because it's most likely that these ads will be dead by the time we come up, because our DPS will be higher. So it's probably going to be pretty impossible to do as much damage as we have been doing on this fight without doing some kind of cheesy type of mechanics. Or if your damage is really low and then you have one person who's really high. But this is, so again, this is much like heroic here. I think everything just does more damage. I don't think there are any new mechanics in this phase. I think it's just more orbs and more shit to dodge. He does inevitable end, so he sucks you in. He does death's door still, so make sure you're dropping the death's door. So at this point in the fight, we don't have to build the bunker, so you can just drop a death's door on the edge of the room. So this guy, well, no, I guess I don't know. That death's door just spawned right there. That was a poor spawn, but maybe that was random. I actually don't exactly know where they come from. I thought it was only from players, but no, it looks like they do appear randomly. So yeah, they do start appearing randomly as well. So, I mean, by the end of this fight, there's just a shitload because the death doors keep spawning. They don't ever stop, and they keep spawning more and more orbs. So that's sort of the enrage, is that at a point you physically won't be able to dodge anything because they're all just going to be right in with next to each other, and it'll just be like a wall of orbs. So, I mean, as marksmanship, it can kind of suck to try and dodge all this. So I'm going to pop my true shot here. I've got a little bit of extra space, a little bit of time right here to do some damage. So you just want to make sure if you are using a cooldown, make sure you're in a good spot to do lots of damage with it. And yeah, so I ended 20... I'm at 27.5K. I was pretty impressed that this was a rank 1 parse. Like, I didn't know that I did that well, but I did, you know, I was just lucky on some good crits on the ads and just good true shot usage and timing and stuff like that. But yeah, this last phase, it's definitely a bit of a clusterfuck. There's a lot of shit to dodge, but it's not bad. I mean, you can see them coming. So obviously you can see when they're coming and you can be like, okay, I mean, I need to move over here and I need to do this and that. This phase is also really good practice for Jaina, you know, because Jaina, the images on Mythic, they all are summoning the freezing orbs, and you have to like run around them and not get hit. If you do get hit, it's basically fucked because you get frozen. So this is, you know, that can be pretty good practice for that. And again, going to skip the cinematic and run over and grab the loot. So that's Mythic, and Mythic, the only big difference, like I said, is building the bunker out of Death's Gates. So you want to make sure that people, first of all, they know that they have the debuff. So that means having a weak aura or just, you know, a bigwig's DBM, like, you know, like burn, like something that tells you that you have the Death's Portal on you, because people will just be doing damage and they're like, oh shit, I didn't realize I had Death's Door. I only have 1 second left on the debuff. Well, I guess I can't get into position to drop it. So make sure people know that they have the debuff so that they can run over and drop it in the very specific spot to build that bunker for the phase 2 downstairs people. But yeah, pretty fun fight. Like I said, it's probably one of my favorites, just because there's a lot of stuff you control. Like there's a lot of, you know, it's about like how well you can dodge the orbs and how well you're like, you know, managing your cooldowns and stuff like that. So I really like fights like this. And yeah, so that's Rastakhan. I will head on to Mechatork now, which is maybe not one of my more favorite fights, but yeah, I'll see you guys there.